lost all control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She caught me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me.
Ladies and gentlemen, how you guys doing? I'm back again. I'm back again, this time fresh from the Medellin Falls Bigfoot Town Hall that happened over there in Medellin Falls, Washington State. It was a cool time. We had a good time. Don and I did a lot. We were plenty busy. Got to meet some wonderful people. Got to meet our very own I Am Pam and her son Michael. That was really cool. It was good to hang out with them and have a chance to get to know them on a more personal level. That was really neat. Thank you so much, Pam, for making that journey and for hanging out with us. And it was a good time. It's good to have done it. I love that we did it. I had some really unique experiences, especially with that hotel. But other than that, it's always good to come home again. It's good to be back. Like I slept like hell at that hotel. I really did. I was up and down about 12 times or so. I don't know. I lost count at how many times I was waking up and then frustrated and tried to sleep again. But I know last night I slept really great. So, considering, I was still up once, but that's normal. So it was really good, but it's good to be home. Good to be back at it. Good to be back in the studio. I got everything all reassembled again because we brought a lot of the gear here over to Medellin Falls to be a part of that event as well. And it was really cool, but it's good to be back. Mighty Morphin. I don't know, Barry, about that, but hey, good day, Aussie. Good to see you, brother. And good to see all you guys. Hey there, Wes, Mr. Gettermer. Well, it says you should listen to the Confessionals podcast. It helps me to sleep. I should have had it on headphones when I was at that hotel, Wes. That probably would have knocked me right out. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, Tony does a great job, but it was a great time. It's good to be home, though. The hotel was just cold. I'll tell you that. It was just cold. But we are back and back at it. This is our first show back after Friday and Saturday being gone. And I hope you guys are excited about that. I know I am. It's always a pleasure to be here bringing you the Paranormal Portal Night Terrors. I got some in my pocket. Oh, there it is. Okay. It was jabbing my leg. I was like, what the hell is in my pocket? But I got it all sorted. Thank you very much for your patience while I get myself all situated over here. But this is the Night Terrors. If you're new to the show, this is our shorter format, just paranormal stories show, and it's about an hour long. So I hope you guys are ready for it, because I know I am. And so time to get ready, folks, because it's time for bed. And we're back at it. And I guess I got stories lined up for you. But if you want to call in and be a part of tonight's show, you got something paranormal that happened to you and you want to share it, then by all means, feel free to call in. The number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500 is the number to call. And that'll get you on the show with me if you want to be a part of it. I can only tell you, it's the way of the warrior here. I don't even know what that means. It's just what came to mind. But I got some stories pulled up, or a story pulled up for you, first of all, and then we'll load up some more regarding some paranormal stuff that's going on in the world, or at least it was as of 2008. And this story's coming from Texas. It says, my husband and I bought this house in 2006. It was really our dream house. We moved in about 3 weeks after the papers were signed with our 4 girls, and it started about 3 months after we moved in. God, I hope I didn't read this on the last show, but if I did, it's going to be a rerun. One day we came home late at night, and my oldest daughter was the first in the house. And as I came in, she was standing at the bottom of the stairs looking up with a weird look on her face. I asked her what she was looking at, and she told me that a black man had just walked up. I did read this one last time. Had just walked up the stairs, and that when he got to the top, he looked back at her and waved. I went up the stairs and looked everywhere, but I found no one. And then it says, since then, we've had a number of unexplained things like the garage disposal going off by itself, the lights going on and off, doors opening and closing by themselves, and we hear people talking at night and footsteps. My husband has seen this black man that my daughter has seen. He said that it was just a pure black shape coming down the stairs, and it scared him really bad. We have heard a little girl laughing, and the kids' toys would go off by themselves at night. Sometimes at night I get really scared, and I usually stay up at night by myself doing schoolwork, and I hear all kinds of strange things. At times I just shrug things off because I know there are other beings here, but sometimes I just get really freaked out for no reason. I don't know why, sometimes I just feel like I'm being threatened, and nobody's there. Like my life is in danger for some reason. One night I was taking a shower and I felt like I was being watched, and when I looked around, nobody was there. As I started to wash up, I felt hands caressing my back and my arms, and I was so scared I just stood stock still. And I asked out loud, "Would you please stop touching me?" The feeling stopped, and I've never felt that again. One night a few months ago, I got the nerve to again use my shower, and again I felt like I was being watched, and as I turned around, I saw somebody standing in front of the shower door, and at first I thought it was my husband just trying to scare me, and I turned back around and said, "While you're in there, can you wash my back?" And as I said back, I turned around and this figure was halfway on the other side of the bathroom, and I opened the shower door because I realized it wasn't my husband. It was a young kid, maybe 17 years old, and he was wearing jeans and a t-shirt and sneakers and a backpack. The only reason I noticed the backpack was because he was holding the strap. I was about to say something to him when he just disappeared. I told no one about this, and I thought my husband would think that I was crazy. About a week later, my husband came out of the bathroom just after taking a shower, and he was sitting on the couch reading a book, and he said, "Ha ha," or it says I was sitting on the couch reading a book, and he said, "Ha ha, very funny." I'm thinking that my husband is going senile at this point. I mean, I didn't move from my spot. I was just sitting there reading, and he thinks this is funny. I look at him like he's crazy, and he says, "What? Don't deny it. I saw you come in the bathroom and turn off the lights and the fan and then turn them back on again." Well, I told him that I didn't move from this spot, and it took me about 30 minutes to convince him that I did not go to the bathroom. He said that he was just washing his hair and the lights and fan went off in the bathroom. A few minutes later, they came back on, and he opened the shower door. He saw a female figure going out of the bathroom door, and he said that it had shoulder-length hair and was about my height, about 5'6", and had brown hair, which he said this figure looked a lot like me. My husband lost both of his legs in the service, so when he takes off his legs, he's very short, and I'm just hoping that he was off on the height and the looks of this figure. It's just very creepy. So that's your rerun for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it. But I'll try to find a brand new one to read you. I don't know why that was still there, but it's just how it works sometimes. Let me get down here to the fresh stories. There we go. Let's go to this one. I have to sometimes watch because I don't want to read the ones that are like logs. Some of these stories are submitted by researchers, and they read like log books and not really entertaining for ghost stories. So let's read these, and we'll see how we do. So the first one out of this list comes from Michigan. And it says this is dealing with apparitions, voices, and touches. So it says, I was up north visiting my parents in Foster Township near West Branch last summer, and it was getting late, so my partner and I decided to walk back to my sister's cottage that sits 12 houses away on Horseshoe Lake. We were talking about nothing in particular, just gabbing and joking around, and as we cleared a bend in the road, I turned my attention from him to the road in front of me. I saw a man coming at me from the edge of the road, and he was actually clear in detail, close enough to my face that I could make out a beard, blue eyes, and that he was wearing a solid colored flannel. Flannel man, that's a real phenomena that's kind of appearing. Well, people are calling it a phenomena, that these apparitions are appearing with flannel, so they call him flannel man. And I don't know if that's worthy of its own distinct kind of phenomena, or if it's just there's a lot of ghosts that like flannel. I don't know that makes sense. I mean, a shadow person, of course, is specifically always in shadow, but I don't know that a kind of shirt that a ghost is wearing qualifies it for its own distinction. But there's some researchers out there that insist it does. So, be that as it may, I don't know. It's up to you guys. Come to your own conclusions, but I find that kind of peculiar. I don't think a flannel shirt is necessarily a unique identifier by which to isolate a phenomena. But, it seems nothing else is really unusual about those experiences other than the people are drawing distinction to the fact that they have flannel on. And I don't understand that. But that's just me. Because, otherwise, then we'd have little blue dress girls and stuff and, and nightgown ladies. There's some things that just come up a lot in ghosts encounters, and ladies in nightgown is a huge one. So do we have to have nightgown ladies then? And if it's a little girl with a sundress on, is it the sundress girls? I don't know. It seems kind of bizarre to me that they're isolating an entire phenomena because they see these apparitions with flannel shirts on. I haven't heard anything really unique to those type of encounters outside of that, but I don't know. It's up to you guys. Come to your own conclusions. I don't know. My arms went instinctively into a defense block to protect my face and upper body. I then heard a very deep chill go through me, or felt a very deep chill go through me from one side to the other, and my partner then felt it go through him and exit toward the lake. We stood still for a moment, stunned, and he asked, "What the heck was that?" I gathered myself and told him what I saw, and he didn't see the figure because he was looking in the opposite direction. He just felt the entity go through him, and we both had a difficult time sleeping that night. As I thought about it further, I came to realize perhaps the man spirit was just trying to get to the lake, and we just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Last year, I had another strange experience with my sister, and we were at a party in my neighbor's house in Detroit, and we were chatting with my sister, and my sister looked down the hallway. I looked in the same direction, and we both saw the shadow of a man wearing a wide-brimmed hat walk from one room to the other, passing the hall closet. Later, we found out by the couple that lived there that they were having problems with the mischievous spirit. I guess he would whisper the name of the woman who lived there when she was alone in the house. There have been many other experiences with the paranormal that myself or family members have witnessed throughout the years. The weirdest thing is that I can tell if a house is haunted or not by the mirrors in the home. Oh, thanks, Taco. I appreciate that, brother. By the mirrors in the home, huh? Where did it go? Let's see. I found them by the mirrors in the home. There's been about 5 or 6 homes that while there, I would absolutely avoid the mirrors. I have no good explanation for this, and I've never seen anything unusual or scary in a mirror. However, each one of those homes, I found out later, was actually haunted. This makes me think, do I just have a knack for seeing ghosts? Or is there some reason why the past 2 years have had increasing paranormal activity? I'm boggled. I don't know. Interesting. So much Jake. What did you say, Jake, that you took back? Thank you, Taco. I appreciate it, brother. Taco is a hell of an artisan. I just got to tell you guys that. He's been sharing some pictures of things that he's making, and I'm just floored. That guy is incredibly talented. Just throwing that out there. But just really cool. All right, so excuse me. Just got a little throat gurgle there. The next story tonight is coming from Florida. And if you've ever been to Florida, it's a cool place, but seems to be a lot of spiritual energy there, I got to admit. Now, I don't know why that is. I don't know if there's something with the land or just because it's close to the equator, or if there's something to that or not. I don't know, ley lines, who knows? But there's always stuff popping in Florida. We don't hear an overabundance on the show from these ghost stories, though, which is kind of peculiar, but... Anyway, it says, this happened, and this has to do with all haunted places. This happened in August 1988, just before I transferred from a school I was attending in Pensacola, Florida. Oh, Taco, you're not just bored. I had some friends that were not enlisted in the Navy, and they did some ghost hunting on the side, and they were not an organized group per se. But if they found a public spot that had strange stories about it, they'd break out the cameras and tape recorders and try to prove or disprove the stories. Fort Pickens is an old World War II gun battery lookout post overlooking Pensacola Bay. At one time, it had large guns placed there to defend the bay's entrance from enemy attack, and one of these batteries was rumored to be haunted by World War II soldiers that had died, but not from battle, but in accidents that happened during training to use the large guns. And it was these stories, and a more recent one, of a possible cult doing horrible things inside the main battery that took us out to investigate on a Friday night. It was about 21:30 or 9:30 p.m. When we arrived at the battery that night. It was clear and the moon was 3/4 full, bright enough that you really didn't need a flashlight outside, and the 5 of us checked out our equipment in the parking lot area. Flashlights, check. 3 brand new mag lights, 4D size batteries, 2 large 9-volt box type batteries, cameras, check. 2 35mm, 1 Nikon, 1 Canon, 1 loaded with color film, the other with black and white, 2 tape recorders. Hey, it was 1988. Digital wasn't that big. And with this stuff we checked, we headed in for the entrance. Now, Fort Pickens is open 24/7 to the public. All you had to do was drive in. The batteries, however, did have fencing up to prevent people from wandering in there and getting hurt. The fence on the main battery was bent back, so it was easy to enter. Yeah, I was young and dumb and living in the moment. So in we went, flashlights blazing. The main corridor ran all the way across the other side, and on the left was another corridor. The main corridor had lots of trash and graffiti in it, not much to write home about, and we turned left and made our way deeper into the battery, and the further we went, the less garbage and graffiti we saw. This corridor seemed to go on forever. And then we saw pictures on the walls. Not your average graffiti, but real pictures. One of these stands out in my mind, and it was a copy of one of the major arcana cards from the Rider Tarot deck, the Devil. It represents stagnation, bondage, and worse. And just past this, there were red footprints that ran along the floor, then up the wall and onto the ceiling. Yeah, the ceiling. It is at this point that all 5 of us got the feeling we were being watched. This feeling came from further in down the battery, and we turned our flashlights down the corridor, and not one of the 5 of us seemed to cut the darkness any further than about 30 feet. Now, for the 2 box flashlights, this didn't concern me. They were older and perhaps the bulbs were weak, but 2 of the mag lights were brand new, bought the day before just for this trip, and they should have lit up the entire corridor, but they weren't. When shined back the way we had come, all the beams seemed to work just fine. Turn and shine deeper into the battery, and it seemed the darkness just swallowed the beams of light. We decided it was time to go. The feeling of being watched had increased, and after a short distance discussion, 3 of the 5 of us voted to get out. As we left, we would take turns looking backwards, and it seemed as if the darkness was following us. The flashlights, when shined backwards, would only shine a short distance before being sucked up into the dark, and when facing forward, work normally. Out we pop, and the feeling of being watched lifts. That is, until we get to the parking lot. Then one of my friends turns to me, and as I ask, "Does anyone feel like we're being watched again?" She nods her head, and we hear the sound of a stick breaking. The sound came from the top of the battery, and we looked up and saw two hooded figures silhouetted in the moonlight, standing on top of the battery. We pile into our car and fly out of the parking area, down the road, and into the civilization of Pensacola Beach. We were followed by what appeared to be a dark-colored van, and as we pulled into the parking for one of the public beach areas, this van pulled a U-turn and headed back towards Fort Pickens. I want to know what happened to our flashlight beam, which was the creepiest thing for me, and that happened. And when the batteries had the batteries gone dead, that would be one thing, but for the beams not to illuminate the way they should one direction and work fine pointed in the other direction has stuck with me the most about this experience. Yeah, that's strange. It's like a supernatural darkness, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what to make of that, but you hear about it from time to time. It's a pretty creepy idea. If your flashlight just wouldn't work. And why wouldn't it? It just seems to defy the laws of physics for sure. But I guess there's lots of strangeness afoot. We're going to go over to Washington State. This is, of course, where I was this past weekend, or just yesterday. It says this one has to do with apparitions, voices, and touches. I was staying with my friend Summer in a small hunting cabin for the weekend, just for the fun of it. And since this is a state park, she already lived in the cabin for 4.5 months before getting a house. I guess 4.5 months. Okay. She had told me that she swore there was a ghost in the cabin. She claimed she'd seen it outside, had seen it multiple times, and it had touched her at least 3 times. I was a really skeptical person, and I still am, but what happened to me later that night was unreal. I was lying in the bed with my sleeping bag. Of course, I was in the bag. I felt something brush up against my feet. As Summer and I were talking across the beds, as I had felt it, she looked at my feet without me hinting to her that something was touching my feet. Is Guff Guff, the mouse we named, down there? No, there's nothing there. I jerked up and pulled my feet away, and I grabbed the flashlight and looked all around for a mouse or some kind of bug that might have been near my feet. A bug? Are you serious? If you got a sleeping bag on your feet and a bug, you can feel a bug through that? You need a new sleeping bag. But nothing was there. We even looked under the mattress. My feet weren't close to the wall, and they were near the edge of the bed. And if there was a mouse, you would have seen it, but we never did. Now, Summer says the ghost likes my feet. The next night, I had my feet in the sleeping bag again, but Summer, her chicken self, slept with me in the same bed. No, we're not gay or lesbian. It says that. Not that it's any of our business, but anyway, that night we stayed up talking, and we heard a shuffling on the other side of the cabin. We both stopped talking to listen, and we could hear what sounded like a conversation outside of the cabin. We both got up as quietly as we could and looked outside to find no one except a deer running off. Ooh, that just makes you think of skinwalkers, doesn't it? Doesn't it? I'm serious. That's the first thing I thought of when he said that. When they say the deer is running off, it's like, oh, that's a lot creepy. All right, let's get to the next one, and this one is Hawaii. Hawaii. Does it have? Oh, the chat room is doing the chat room stuff. Nessie Monster the Nun. Is that a new name, Nessie? I don't think I've noticed that before. Sorry, I wish I'd noticed everything, but I don't think I've seen that before. Nessie the Nun. Holy God, this Hawaii story is very long, so this one's going to take a while, so buckle up. I'm going to take a drink before this. It's literally about a 15-minute or, all right, let's see. It's about psychic and medium experiences, but starts out, he stood around 7 feet tall. His eyes were nothing but black holes. They had a kind of glow behind them in the darkness. It was last week, and I sat up on the cliffs overlooking Shark Bay. The sun had just set, and I saw someone walking upon the short sand beach below. There isn't much of a beach due to relenting waves, and it isn't a beach for swimming, and the fishermen overtake the area. It's approximately 20 feet down, and I watched the wavering figure growing closer, and I knew it was an evil entity. And I wondered why he was showing himself to me. A part of my gift is discernment. In an instant, I know that what they were in life. It's a feeling that overtakes me, and I don't have to see them to know. They don't need to be nearby. I just know. I think he was trying to scare me, but after all I have seen, not much phases me these days. So I sat back, just watching him, waiting for him to do his thing, whatever that may be. The last of the sun was gone, and the purple blue of the clouds was now a solid black. No moon, no trade winds, stillness. Perfect elements for a ghost to try to make a move, good or bad. I was his target. As I'm used to being sought out, all I can do is ready myself for the experience. It's not even an afterthought to go into a prayer of protection. I close my eyes and ask God to surround me in a shield of strength. I can do nothing on my own of this. I learned long ago. When I opened my eyes, the entity was standing in front of me. His black eyes were piercing through mine, and I noticed his face was covered in tattoos. For a moment it scared me, but then I stood up to face him. He backed away from me, and I knew then he was a very evil spirit. He tried to take on the appearance of a warrior, but his facade soon began to break down. I watched as his face became distorted. The skin became taut and still and skull-like, and I saw his true face behind the pretense he projected. And I saw what he looked like in life, and he had been an ugly man, so sad. The ugliness had permeated his soul as well. The entity was filled with evil, and he had been a man at one time, but in his latter days became obsessed with power and greed. He had hurt a lot of people in his journey, and he had a few people killed. I could smell the deaths layered upon him, like chains seen to the naked eye. You want to know how I know this? I can see it on their faces and bodies. It's like the words in a book. Each face, body represents and projects life lived in shame, sorrow, greed, happy, sad, evil, good, etc. Anyway, this is how I'm able to read them. It's as clear to me as a page filled with descriptive explanation. Every soul is read, heard, and helped, or avoided. I wanted to rid myself of this entity, and he made my skin crawl. And his being, well, best way to describe it, he made me feel like I was covered in feces. I almost retched, and I started to walk away. Turning my back on him would be a bad idea, so I was careful to move slowly. I try not to speak to this kind of entity if I can feel him. He knows what I am. And last thing you'd want to do is anger an evil entity. Too late. He called me a few expletives, and I will leave out here, and tried to push at me with his energy. Of course, since I had my power of prayer working in my favor, it did no more than lift a few hairs on my shoulders, kind of like someone blowing their breath on your face or neck. Creepy, but I kept walking towards my truck. I took a quick glance to see how much farther I needed to go, and that was my mistake. The entity was next to me again, and he started to threaten me with death. Of course, he screamed it at me with detail. I'm too much of a lady to repeat what he said, but it was as nasty and vile as I could imagine, and I didn't flinch. It wasn't the first time an entity had ever threatened harm, and it wouldn't be the last. Having the beliefs I hold dear, I know these type of entities can't harm me, and certainly cannot take my life. They can try, and this one did. When he saw I wasn't reacting to his threats, he mustered enough energy to knock me to the ground, and but it's like being pushed over by a child. The key is to not be afraid. If you allow fear to enter the equation, he gathers this from you, and the fear gives an entity power which can be used against you. Never give in to fear, no matter how scary the situation. The entity hovered above me, and he did his best to look frightening, and he did manage a few looks I had never seen before, but I didn't waver in my stare. He knew he couldn't hurt me, and he started to wail in frustration. My ears were burning from the high-pitched sound he made. It sounded like tin cans going through a grinder, and add to that voluminous sounds akin to sitting in a front row at a rock concert. It was painful and annoying. Some entities are great at throwing temper tantrums, and this big guy, he was throwing a dilly of a fit. I sat up and rubbed my knees, brushed away the rock that stuck to them. I was getting mad now, and I told him so. Get away from me, evil one. You have no power over me. Go away. I yelled, my knees throbbed from where I landed, and I was ticked off. At my age, I didn't put up with being pushed, prodded, pinched, poked, etc. The entity looked shocked and seemed to shrink before my eyes. I found myself staring eye to eye with him. His black eyes smoked anger, but he was shirking away from me, moving back to the cliff's edge. God will take care of your kind one day. No matter what rock you hide under, I called out as he moved away. Sometimes just using the word God will cause them to retreat. Retreat? This one zipped away. And I saw him dart across the sand below, and in a blink of an eye, he was gone. Thank goodness he took his nasty smells with him. I went home and took another long shower. My shower stall is filled with scented shower gels, and it takes a while before the odors filling my nose goes away. This is part of my gift I really hate. That's creepy. I guess it's, it's important not to be afraid as much as you can help it. I mean, we're not used to seeing things like that, and I suppose if we suddenly could, it would be quite a shock. But to just remember that you are in control of you, and you can call for protection or purging of evil like that on whatever you wish. I'm not preaching about religion ever. As those of you that have been around know, I don't do that. I don't advocate any one thing, just whatever resonates with you. But yeah, you got to claim your power. You really got to claim your power with those dark things. They would love for you to believe that you are weak and vulnerable and susceptible to their will, but you're not. And the only way you become is if you surrender to them. So don't be afraid as much as you can help it. I think that's oftentimes much easier said than done, but I think it's the right philosophy. Mastering fear is never an easy thing. But anyway, just words to live by. If you're going to go dealing with ghosts, you got to be ready to face the ugly. So this one is coming from Missouri. I write, it has to do with apparitions, voices, and touches. It says, I wrote, is something haunted in our apartment a few months ago. And since then, I've had nightmares about a man staring at me from the doorway in my room. I've never thought much about that, and I just brushed it off as a bad dream. Well, not much has happened since, except one night, the Wednesday before my occurrence. It was about 10:30 p.m., and I got out of the shower and heard noises in my daughter's room across from the bathroom. I walked very slowly and quietly to her bedroom door and listened for the noise, and it sounded like someone was going through a toy box. It wasn't my baby, since she sleeps in the crib and doesn't get out. I walked even more slowly to my bedroom, woke my boyfriend Adrian, and pleaded with him to check on Jasenia, my baby. And he actually said no, since he had no idea what I was talking about. He was just knocked out. I said, fine, I'll do it myself. I walked to the closet and grabbed a bat, then walked to her room, and I opened the door slowly and looked inside. Nothing. I turned the security camera on in her room, and then I walked to my room, so I was so frightened. I watched her room using my security camera monitor, but nothing happened, so I went to sleep. That Friday, November 14th of 2008, I took off work. I and my 2-year-old daughter were lying in bed at about 11 a.m., and she was watching cartoons and drinking chocolate milk, and I was taking a nap, and we had not had anything to eat yet that day, so we got out of bed. I went straight to the bathroom, and I left the bathroom door open because when I close it, my baby throws a tantrum. While I was taking care of business, my daughter runs into the bathroom and claims she can't find her chocolate milk. I tell her she left it in my bedroom on the floor, and she runs to my room and run back and said, "No, Mommy, I lost it." I said, "You didn't even look. Go back. It's on the floor by my bed." My daughter is very advanced for a 2-year-old, and as I've mentioned in the previous story. And then she came up close to me and snuggled by my side. Yeah, I was still on the toilet. I asked her to leave the bathroom because I was busy, but she just wouldn't. Well, I did my thing before I washed my hands. She said, "Mommy, I'm scared." I asked why, and she backed up a little, looked up at me and made a circle with her index finger and thumb, and then said, "I'm scared of the man and the little green star in our room, in your room." And I immediately thought of the stories that the previous tenant had told me about a man haunting his son in the apartment. And then I thought that she was referring to an orb when she made the circle with her finger and called it a green star. I said, "Baby, there is no man in my room. Go get your milk." She cried and said, "Please, Mommy, no, I'm scared." I held her hand and I said, "No one's going to scare you, okay? I'll walk with you to get your cup and you can show me the man." She curled up her lip and said, "Okay." We walked very slowly to my bedroom, and as we reached the threshold, we both stopped. She had her eyes set on something that I couldn't see. She showed no emotion on her face. She just stared across the bedroom. I stared at her for a moment, watching for her to move and say something, but she didn't. Then I asked, "Where's the man?" She pointed across the room and said, "He's right there." She said this in a monotone voice and hardly moved her lips. And I looked and saw nothing, and then I asked, "What is he doing?" She replied, "He's standing up, and he's looking at us." I said, "Okay," and quickly turned around and headed towards our dining room. I was so frightened, more frightened than she was. I didn't want to show her, though, because I didn't want her to be afraid. I told her to get her jacket as I was zipping up mine, and I said, "We're going to Grandma's." And she went to get her jacket. And I thought to myself, no, this is my home. I'm not going to leave my own home. He needs to leave. I canceled our plans to go to Grandma's, and I went on with the day while trying to act normal. I forgot to mention in the beginning that about a month ago, it was about 1 a.m. and I was on the computer, and the heater was not on yet since it was in the beginning of fall, and it was about 50 degrees. Not too cold for a St. Louis, Missouri. My thermostat has buttons that are pretty big, and you can push them to get the degrees you want and when turning on the heater. And when you push the button, it makes a beep sound. While sitting at the computer, I heard the beep sound, and I turned around quickly, expecting to see Adrian there, which wouldn't have been possible since he wasn't even home. But no one was there. And then suddenly, my vents shifted on as the heater turned on. I walked to the thermostat and the light was on, as if someone had pushed the buttons. I turned the heater off and sat back down. Then the vents shut off. About 1 minute later, it happened again, and this time I turned around and saw the buttons being pushed in. I got up and turned it off again, and I was trying to make logical sense of this. I called Adrian, and he was at a bar. Nice. I asked him if he turned on the heater, and he said no. And I knew he didn't do it, but I was hoping he would say yes, and then maybe I could think that it was something just coming on as an automatic heat or something. I had no conclusion other than it was something paranormal. After my occurrence Friday, I talked to my mom, who's a really religious woman, and she's a strong believer in the other side, ghosts, spirits, etc. And she made me feel much better. She told me to get the place blessed and told me not to be afraid. I knew I had to do something. I thought about telling the thing to leave, but I read that the more energy you use on these spirits or whatever, the more that they have to feed off of. I considered this thing to be bad since he's scaring my daughter. I think I'm just going to have someone come and bless the place. Meanwhile, I wrote my landlord an email asking about the history of the apartment. And this time I want to know the more details about the tenants and not so much about the building. Please let me know what you think. Well, I think you have to claim your space. You just gotta. It doesn't really sound negative. I mean, yeah, it's creepy to think something might be there, and it certainly is freaking out your daughter. That's not good, but I really believe you can make statements. You can say, hey, we've covered it many times. This is my house. If you're here in peace and love and, and positivity, you're welcome to stay. But here's the rules. And if you're not, you need to get the hell out. You can't live in fear, And it's like everything these days is just, it's just aimed at fear. Be afraid, be very afraid. Turn on the news, see what you're supposed to be afraid of today, Be afraid of this, that, and the other thing. It's like you can't live your life in fear, because if you are, you're not living your life. It's like, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not even really aware of much about this coronavirus stuff. But I did see an interview with Dr. Drew, and he's like, "This is ridiculous. It's not a pandemic. It's not even a big thing. These people are absolutely overreacting to try to get people scared." And to clickbait to get people to click on their stories. But he said they're absolutely sensationalizing the hell out of this thing, and there's absolutely nothing to be afraid of. He said the flu has killed a lot more people this year than coronavirus has. And he said that it's the people that have died have been the people that have respiratory illnesses or issues. And he said that actually, in actuality, the flu is much more dangerous than this coronavirus is, but it's become this panicky thing that people are just freaking about. Now, is it good to be prepared? Sure, it's good. I mean, because what if something changes and it becomes something else? Okay, fine. But, I just really think people are living in fear in so many ways right now, and it's so counterproductive to everything that's going on. And, the same thing for a haunting. You shouldn't be afraid. I mean, you're going to be, if you're really dealing with a haunting, it's going to be kind of scary, but you just got to master your fear and deal with these things. I don't know. People are just getting so bent out of shape about everything these days. They're afraid of change. They're afraid of so many things, and it's absolutely nuts. Makes me crazy sometimes. I'm telling you. I just don't think we can live afraid. That's just not a life. But, I guess that's tonight's lesson. maybe I've got to make these have a theme. These night terrors have to have a theme. So tonight we're talking about fear, ladies and gentlemen. Fear. Don't be afraid. It's like if you're afraid of cars, do you quit going outside? No, you still got to deal with it. You got to go out and deal with it. You can't be afraid to live your life. You can't be afraid to... you can't stop living and living in little bubbles and stuff. I just think that that's so twisted. But there's so many people that are trying to make people afraid these days. Ugh. I don't know. And here's the thing, and I said it one other time too, but I really firmly believe that when the time is up, it's up, whatever that means. I believe that there's a purpose and a path to all of this. I don't think we're just random cells that manage to become complex life forms that just live, 70, 80, 90 years and then we're done. I think that we have a consciousness, we have a soul, and we have a journey. And I think we're on that journey. And I don't think you can be afraid to exist in your experience and to experience your life. But so many people want everyone to be afraid of something. So, I don't know. Just my 2 cents tonight, but don't live in fear. Because if you do, you're not living. You're not really living at all. You're letting other people choose your life, and that's not good. All right, the next one's from Iowa. Was watching my grandma at her house, and late that night, I thought I heard someone walking downstairs, or walking around upstairs, rather. Sorry. My four-year-old granddaughter was asleep in her room, and no one was upstairs. I went downstairs and heard footsteps, this time on the open staircase, but again, no one was there. I went upstairs to go to bed and left the upstairs bathroom light on in case my granddaughter got up in the night and went to bed. And I pushed a box in front of my bedroom door after closing the door and went to bed. How old's this kid? 4 years old? Huh. Seems he's putting a box in front of the door and he's going to bed, but he leaves the light on for the 4-year-old to navigate by itself. That's kind of I don't know. All right. Let's see. Put a box in front of the bedroom door after closing the door and went to bed. Woke up after hearing a noise and found my door open and the box pushed to the side of the door. Well, I checked my granddaughter and she was asleep and my daughter wasn't home yet. I shut the door and placed the box back in front of the door and went to bed. I couldn't sleep and noticed the door slowly open as if someone was pushing it open. The box slid to the side where it was before, and then I felt something sit on the end of the bed near my feet. I yelled at it to get out of my room, and it was suddenly gone. I went in the hall and turned on the light. The attic door was right across from the bedroom. The stairs were still there, but the attic had been closed off. And that stairwell just gave me the creeps. I had the strongest urge to shut the door and nail it shut and hang a cross on the door. I couldn't sleep and waited for my daughter and her friends to come home. And I told her what had happened, and she told me that during the day, they can hear people talking upstairs and walking around, but no one is ever there. And that it was happening even before the other side of the duplex was rented. She said it gets worse at night, and that the kitchen cabinet doors to the sink in the kitchen often bang shut like something is slamming them. She also told me that when they first moved into the duplex, they didn't feel comfortable sleeping upstairs and that my granddaughter would scream and cry if she had to sleep upstairs. I told her about the thing that opened the door and then sat on my bed, and she told me that happens every night in her room where I was sleeping, and at that sometimes it even shakes her bed while she's on it until she yells at it to get out of her room. Whatever is in that duplex leaves my granddaughter alone now, but seems to have centered its activity to my daughter's room, her bed, and the attic upstairs and downstairs kitchen. I don't feel comfortable with this thing and sense something very wrong with it. It seems dangerous to me and almost threatening. The attic draws my attention and feels wrong. A strong sense of wrong, and yet I feel drawn to it. After being in that house overnight, I had trouble sleeping. Nightmares that I can't totally recall. And my daughter has lost her job and her car blew the heads, leaving her with no transportation. I want her to move out, but right now she's stuck there until she can find another job and can afford to move. Yikes, being trapped. That's not good at all. How you guys doing in the chat room? You guys good? Having fun? Are we having fun here in the portal? I know I am, but I always have fun doing the shows. That is for sure. Yeah, it's tough when you're stuck and you got to live someplace like that. And I think that's common. You know, it's like some of the worst haunting places. And I think places that are really haunted, like really negatively haunted, they rent pretty cheap, you know, and it's hard for people that are really trying to climb their way up out of, you know, financial issues, end up renting them because it's a hell of a deal. And then things just kind of go sideways and they end up stuck. And so many people are stuck in these situations dealing with, you know, these really negative things, and they can't really choose to just leave. They can't make that choice. So I don't know. That's a tough place to be. But I think that, you know, those kind of things can be pushed on and pushed out. You just may have to take several runs at it with several different approaches, Can't be afraid to think outside of the box. All right, so we're going to Maryland this time, ladies and gentlemen. Our next story is from Maryland. It says, I've always experienced very strange, inexplicable situations that have happened to me. I can always sense how someone is, and sometimes I can see into the future, and it sounds immoral and silly, but it's the truth. When I was a small child, I could see and hear things that other people could not. Weird things happening to me, and no one believed me. And now I'm a teenager. Things are becoming clearer and more frightening. Well, I live in an apartment with my mom and dad, and my sister moved out a couple of years ago. My room is the only room in the house that is freezing cold. The landlord told us that the last person to live here was a man that was never home a lot and always traveled. I believe that there was someone else that lived here before him. Well, lately things have been getting more and more strange. I felt cold air all over my body moving. And I've seen and heard things moving outside of the woods of my apartment. A couple of nights ago, while I was about to go to sleep, I felt something forcing me to move over onto my back. And then I felt cold air on my neck and hands. And when I got up to go to the bathroom, I could have sworn the eyes on my poster were flickering so all you could see were the whites of its eyes. Then a couple nights later, when I set my alarm to wake up in the morning, it started buzzing, and I have a weird clock where there's this button on it that says buzz. And if you press the alarm, it will wake you by buzzing. But I know I didn't set it to buzz because I checked. I thought the reason why it might be buzzing was because of my cell phone, but my cell phone and all other phones in my house were not in my room. I turned off the clock and reset it, but to make sure I would wake up on time, and I went and got my cell phone and set that alarm. My other clock didn't ring. My cell phone had to wake me up. Since I've been getting freaked out by this, I've been talking to it. And every time I do this, I feel ice cold hands on my hands while I talk. It seems like the more I talk to it, the more and more it becomes nicer. Last night while I was lying down, I felt a warm presence on my back, and it was very comforting though. And then I felt cold air gusts on my neck and cheeks, and I could have sworn I saw something moving in my room. The weird thing is lately my cat will not come in my room anymore, and she always stands in there. I've told my parents and friends about what I've experienced, but they think I'm just overreacting, but I know I'm not. If you have any logical explanation about what's happening to me, please leave me a comment. I really need your help. I'd love to comment, but this story is from 2008. So quite a long time ago. What is that, 12 years now? Wow. This doesn't seem like 2008 is all that long ago, but it really is, isn't it? Wowzers. Okay. Well, so I hope this person got it all sorted out, whatever the situation was, but yeah, I don't know. You kind of get your hands tied on a lot of those things. If you don't know what you're doing, get help. Get help. Oh, I don't want to read this one. I'm kind of burned out on sleep paralysis stories. We've done hundreds of them, and I appreciate that it's a real phenomenon and stuff, but I mean, generally they're all the same story. I couldn't move. I felt like something was pressing me down, holding me down. Sometimes I see the hag, sometimes I see a shadow, sometimes I don't see anything, just a wicked presence. And I'm not meaning to trivialize it. I know it's absolutely terrifying. I've experienced that myself over a long period of time. But, it's like, what do? You can only discuss that so much, and I don't have any new answers. And the stories are all the same. It's a terrible phenomenon, whatever it is. And I guess all I can tell you is if you think you're having sleep paralysis or something like that, learn how to protect yourself. Learn ways of powerful prayer or anointing oil or, surrounding your bed with a ring of salt. As silly as that sounds, I mean, salt's been used for protection for, from ancient times. Ancient times, salt has been used. Obviously there are many different mediums of protection out there, many different methods of protection. But if you think you're being targeted and dealing with sleep paralysis or some kind of night terrors induced by a spirit, then find and learn ways to protect yourself that resonate with your spirituality. And I think that's the key, is it really, some methods have a potency of their own. Like, it doesn't rely completely on the faith of the person, but I would say that the faith of the person aligning with it magnifies its power and its protection and its ability to protect you. So, like, if you're not a Christian, but you feel worried, so you grab a Bible and you start reading Christian words, it may have a little bit of power just based on the fact that a lot of people do believe in what is said in the Bible, and so it might have an effect of some sort. But if it doesn't resonate in your heart, it's really not going to give you that much. Nor is it if you're not pagan, but you start drawing pagan symbols and using pagan methods, it's not going to be very good for you either. These things don't have power in and of themselves generally. It's born in the heart of the believer, in the faith. The faith of the person is what makes it powerful for them. Because I think all of these methods to protect yourself have to be in tune with you, because you are the for lack of a better word, the medium. And by medium, I don't mean that you're psychic or whatever. I mean that you are the method by which these methods are projected into the world. You are the focal point for that. So if you're using smudging and you're not using your spirit and your passion and you're asking the power to come through you, it's not going to be nearly as powerful. So we empower the rituals that we do. The rituals in and of themselves are not powerful. And take that for whatever it means. Why are some people able to cast out spirits and others aren't? Well, because they're doing something they really resonate with, and they are using their own power with it, and it magnifies it so much. We are the ones projecting it from the mind of spirit or the divine or whatever into our world. And so if you are not passionate and really believe wholeheartedly in what you're doing, it's just, you might as well be doing aerobics. You might as well be just using crayon on a wall, So having faith in what you're doing is important. So I definitely would like to advocate that. I see that Mr. Lewis appears to be calling in. Let me look at the clock here. I mean, I'll take the call either way. I just want to see what time we're dealing with. Okay. We've got a couple minutes, but I'll give Lewis all the time he needs. Is that you, Lewis?
Hey guys.
Hey buddy, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. What's going on, brother?
Let's see. Tuesday, I was playing with the Ghost Radar app, and a spirit named Billy was showing up.
A spirit named Billy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what happened?
It was just putting on a random blitz, but then Friday, my coworker was talking to something I didn't even see.
Okay.
So I kind of guess it was actually him talking to her, because she's actually a physical medium too.
Oh, is she? Okay. So are you doing this on your own too, or with another person?
I do the app on my own.
Okay.
But some spirits they just have.
Yeah.
Spirits they talk to her the most.
Oh, okay.
Because you can see them, I cannot.
Well, I hear you, but I mean those tools can be powerful, of course. Just be careful, brother. Are you protecting yourself and using best practices? I know.
I'm slowing down. Yeah.
I know you're really eager, and I really admire that, and I think it's, it's fine in and of itself. But I just hope you're being careful. You just never know what you're talking to. You never know who you're talking to. So, make sure that you're keeping keeping yourself safe. And you're keeping your home safe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's cool.
As long as there's nothing dark, then yeah.
Yeah.
If there's something dark, I just say goodbye to it.
So it doesn't feel dark. You're telling me that just intuitively you feel like it's not a dark thing at all.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
It's nothing dark.
that's good.
If I had a heavy, see if I can feel like heaviness, like static, then it's dark.
Sure.
But if it's just, it was nothing, just like Spider-Man kind of sense, that's all right.
Yeah. You got to trust your intuition on those things for sure. But just be careful, brother.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, that's great. But so are you just using the spirit box? That's the only way you're connecting currently?
Yeah, well, it's not a spirit box.
It's a
similar to the Oculus.
Uh-huh.
But the same spirit box that you have with the EMF detector where you could show where it is.
Yep.
And have words come out.
Yeah,
that kind.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I'm not convinced. Here's the thing is that I'm not always convinced that they can actually pull the right words or that, but I find that there does seem to be some kind of correlation. I'll tell you a story. What happened was a friend of mine and I had these on our phones, and we were actually driving through Colorado at the time. And what we were finding was that it both had the Ovilus kind of attachment to it and had the spirit radar, and both phones would trigger for a presence. They both would, and both of them would trigger for the vocabulary. But what I noticed was the words were absolutely random. It didn't seem to have any correlation at all between what the word my phone would say and his phone said. So I think that there is some energy thing happening that's triggering the words, but I don't know that it's always an intelligent thing. It could just be a natural, geological kind of phenomena that's, that can trigger those things too, or something else. Or it could be that it's actually picking up some kind of subtle, what might be spiritual energy, but it doesn't seem to have a correlation for the words always. And so it may indicate something's there, but, again, those things are interesting, and I've had some pretty good results sometimes, but most of the time it seems like the words that it spits out, 99% of the time just seems like garbage. Like it's, hey, what's your name? And it'll say something like, I don't know, something like shoe or tractor or something. It's like, well, that's not a name, So, but yeah, I think they're interesting. I think that they do pick up some kind of interference or anomalous energy that wouldn't normally be there, but I don't know that it's always an intelligent kind of response. It could just be getting triggered from some other reason. Does that make sense what I'm saying, Louis?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But I think yeah, exactly. But I think that, by virtue of magnetometers being in wireless devices, they should be able to pick up electromagnetic disturbances. So I think the ghost radar thing can be pretty interesting, and there may be something to it, but I'm not always so convinced that the word generators are. But because the other part of it is and that I have trouble with is, how do they, well, the idea is that the ghosts can use their energy to pull up words. Well, how do they learn that? I mean, how does a ghost know, well, this energy means, rabbit, and this energy means cat, and you know what I mean? It doesn't stand to reason to me that they could just, I'm just making sentences now. I'm making words. There seems to be like, how do they learn that? Is there like a manual on their side? Like, this is how you talk through an Ovilus or what, I don't know, just some strangeness to me, but it just seems like, it seems weird to me that that's the assumption that somehow an energy shift will create words that are relevant to whatever. But just my opinion, brother. But cool, man. I'm glad you're still at it, but just be careful.
I'm trying to be careful.
All right. It's great to hear from you, Lewis. Thanks for calling
If
in.
I got a problem, probably has Zach Bagan's gone to
Yeah,
the house.
give Zach a call. He'll come over and take care of it for you.
Yeah. Or actually, Mrs. MK, he could come
MCAT could, yeah.
investigate.
He's usually in all of our areas at some point or another, so he can swing by. All right, buddy, I got to go.
All right, you too.
All right, take care. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Lewis calling in and taking part in the show. That's always great. But that's going to kind of wrap it up, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I always enjoy doing it for you. And it seems to just go quick. Just seems to go quick all the time. But I will be back, of course, tomorrow with another version of tonight's show. The Night Terrors will continue tomorrow night right here on YouTube. So I hope you guys are subscribed. If you're new to the show, please get subscribed and please ring the bell. It seems like most people that listen to the shows are not subscribed. And it's not just my channel. I'm hearing that from channels all over the place. Everybody's talking about how like 60% of the views of my videos were not from subscribers. And so please get subscribed if you're not. I would really appreciate it. And I would definitely plug you into getting notifications when we're going live if you ring the bell as well. So, but that's it. Love you all as well. Farm, thank you so much. Thank you, Moog. Good to see you. Duke, good to see you, brother. And to all of you out there, I just love you bunches. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. And to any of you out there that might have become aware of the portal from the Medellin Bigfoot Town Hall, thank you so much for checking out the show. That means the world. And I'll be back tomorrow night, 7 days a week, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on YouTube. There is a Paranormal Portal going on. So I hope you guys will continue to enjoy it. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio, and check out our podcast. New one will be launching tomorrow. So make sure you're subscribed to that. If you like the podcast and you like what you're hearing, please head over to iTunes. Leave us a good review. We'd love to. It'll go a long way into helping our show reach more and more people. So if you haven't already done that, please do us a favor and go over there and write us a review. That really helps a ton. So, all right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for me. I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day and remember to laugh as much as you can. And don't be afraid. All right, guys, sweet dreams.